The Shiva Tandava Stotram is one of the most popular and frequently recited hymns dedicated to Lord Shiva. Its vigorous style and rhythmic pattern captivate listeners from the very beginning, embodying Lord Shiva's powerful Tandava. The Stotra poetically describes Lord Shiva's destroying aspect across 11 stanzas. In the verse 2, the poet depicts Lord Shiva holding the Ganga in his matted hair, adorned with moon as a head jewel. It also praises his third eye blazing with fire like dhaga dhaga dhaga, depicting Shiva as Chandrasekhara and Gangadhara. This sentiment is echoed in verse 8 as well. In verse 3, it describes Lord Shiva with his consort Uma, the daughter of Himalayas. It praises the Lord's compassionate Kataksha, which can destroy all obstacles. The verse 6 and 7 describes Lord Shiva as Kamantaka Murti, which means the destroyer of Kama. This refers to the incident where Kamadeva was turned to ashes by the fire from the Lord's third eye. The fire from Shiva's third eye is described as blazing like dhaga dhaga dhaga, indicating the fierceness. The verse 9 and 10 illustrates various forms of Shiva as Samhara Murti, the destroyer aspect of the Lord. He is called Smarachidam, meaning the destroyer of Kamadeva, referring to the Kamantaka Murti. Then he is referred to as Purachidam, which signifies the destruction of the Tripura city, the three cities of gold, silver and copper, indicating Tripurantaka Murti. Next, he is called as Makachidam, meaning the destroyer of Maka, referring to Daksha's Yajna. Following this, he is known as Gajachidam, meaning the destroyer of Gajasura, referring to the Gaja Samhara Murti. He is also called as Andhakachidam, meaning the destroyer of Andhakasura, referring to the Andhakasura Samhara Murti. Then he is referred to as Tamantakachidam, meaning the destroyer of Yama, while saving Markandeya, referring to the Kala Samhara Murti. Finally, he is called as Bhavachidam, meaning the destroyer of our egos. The verse 1 and 2, the poet describes the Tandava of the Lord. Lord Shiva performs the Tandava to the auspicious sound of the Mridanga, which sounds like Dhimi Dhimi Dhimi, and the Damaru, which sounds like Dhama Dhama Dhama. The fire emerging from his forehead signifies his readiness to destroy. This portrays the Lord as the Tandava Murti. A fascinating thing is that the word Tandava appears only in these two verses. There is a popular notion that King Ravana composed this to please Lord Shiva when he was trying to lift the Kailasha Parvata. The Uttarakanda records Ravana lifting the Kailasha but never mentions Ravana singing the Shiva Tandava Stotram. According to the story, Ravana was returning to Lanka in the Pushpaka Vimana after defeating and looting Alaka, the city of his half-brother Kubera, which is located near Mount Kailasha. However, the Vimana could not fly over Mount Kailasha, so he asked Nandi to explain why the Pushpaka Vimana could not fly over Mount Kailasha. Nandi informed Ravana that Lord Shiva resided on the mountain and that no one was allowed to pass. Ravana asked Koyam Shankaram, which means who is this Shankara, and insults Nandi as a monkey face. Insulted, Nandi cursed Ravana that monkeys would destroy his pride and power along with his people. Enraged by his inability to proceed further, Ravana tried to lift the Kailasa. Before Ravana decided to uproot Kailasa, he questioned Shiva's authority and boastfully declared that his own presence should be enough to instill fear in anyone, including Lord Shiva. With all his might, Ravana began lifting the mountain. As Kailasa began to shake, the denizens were terrified. However, the omniscient Lord knew that Ravana was behind the fuss and pressed the mountain into place with his big toe, trapping Ravana beneath it. Ravana gave a loud cry in a pain which made the three worlds tremble. Advised by his ministers, Ravana sang various Samaveda mantras for 1,000 years. Finally, Lord Shiva not only forgave Ravana but also granted him an invincible sword called Chandrahasa. Since Ravana cry made the three worlds tremble, he was given the name Ravana by the Lord himself. Until then, he was referred to as Dashagriva. Analyzing the story, we can make three observations. Firstly, Ravana did not know who Shankara was on the holy mountain of Kailasha. Secondly, he sees himself as a powerful king and believes that everyone should acknowledge his superiority. Finally, he never sang the Shiva Tandava Stotram. Instead, he sang various Samaveda mantras. So, based on these observations, we can conclude that an arrogant person couldn't have composed the Shiva Tandava Stotram. Also, we do not find any evidence to support that Ravana had composed the Stotram in our Itihasas or Puranas. Some people would say that there is a mention of Dashavaktra Geetam in the 15th verse of the Stotram, which translates to sung by 10 face, and conclude that this stotram was composed by Ravana. I find this word Dashavaktam amusing because throughout the Ramayana, Ravana has been referred by various names like Dashagriva, Dashakanta, Dashamukha, Dashanana, Dashakandhara, but there is no reference to Ravana as Dashavaktra. Additionally, there are multiple versions of the stotram with varying number of verses. In the Agamas, the entire episode of Ravana lifting the Kailasha is referred to as Ravana Anugraham, and the Lord Shiva is called Ravana Anugrahamurti. It is a form of Lord Shiva that bestows grace on Ravana. The Lingashtakam refers to the same episode as Ravana Darpa Vinashaka Lingam, which means the lingam that destroyed the pride of Ravana. So it's very clear that this incident highlights the benevolent aspect of the Lord and not the bhakti of Ravana. Tirujnana Sambandar, the celebrated Shaiva saint from Tamil Nadu, who lived in the 7th century, extols the Lord in various Samhara Murtis mentioned in the Shiva Tandava Stotram across his Padikam. Another amusing thing is that Sambandar sings the story of Ravana lifting the Kailasa, the 8th verse of each of his Padigam uniformly, except in a few cases. This paper by Vasudeva Agarwal, based on the iconographic and literary motifs mentioned in Shiva Tandava Stotram, attributes the brilliant piece of work to have been composed during Rashtrakuta period in about middle of 8th century in the Deccan. This work could have been composed by a different author and wrongly attributed to Dashagriva Ravana. This could be a good example of disputed authorship. There are plenty of instances where stotras are attributed to Adi Shankara or Kalidasa but are said to be the creation of later poets. So the Shiva Tandava Stotram is not an isolated instance of a disputed authorship. In conclusion, the Shiva Tandava Stotram holds a significant place in the worship of Lord Shiva, regardless of whether it was written by Ravana or someone else. It's still a potent chant seeking the Lord's grace. It deserves recognition as both a literary masterpiece and prayer to Lord Shiva because of its devotional quality and literary brilliance. If you like my videos, stay subscribed. Until then, stay together, learn together.